Hello guys and welcome. We're going to be playing a demo of a game called Sickness. Now this is another of those visual novel games where we play along. We're playing along as a young man and it's a very tragic story. Now this game is from over on Steam and it's not rated, but I'm going to definitely say, if you can't tell by the art here, it's going to be probably adult, teen and adult only. So if you're under teenage years, I want you out now. So get in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, those still with us? Let's get started. I have not played this. Let's check out our options. Okay. Okay, looks like we're good. Okay, let's start our game. Murder. One of the most heinous crimes a person can commit. Oh, a little scalp roll, nice detail. The act of taking another human being's life, the act of robbing a person of their already limited time on this planet, is a fear-inducing crime which anybody can commit. Every housewife, every student, every police officer, a potential killer. It's a crime that doesn't discriminate by blood or circumstance. It's a crime which can be committed by and make victims of just about anyone. Everybody remains both a potential killer and victim, blissfully ignorant of the fact that they could be next, assuring themselves it could never happen to them. And so, as a result of that naivete, those very people never see it coming. Though the scene before me may seem horrific, in this case as with so many others, there was no great story behind it. There was no build-up, no resentment between the victim and myself, no mutual hatred that gave us reason to fight. We didn't spend years at each other's throats, we had never fought before, and neither one of us saw this coming. In reality, this was the result of a simple, common scenario, one we've all heard of before. A penny-pinching employer, a bankrupt employee, and a denied paycheck. Uh-oh. Truly, there was nothing special about this encounter. My boss didn't taunt me or attempt to exasperate the situation. He didn't fire me, insult me, or do anything to tempt fate. If anything, I'm the one who made things worse. Rather than try to reason with him, I lashed out, beating the pompous man in front of me to a bloody pulp. I knew it wouldn't accomplish anything. I knew attacking him wouldn't give me the money I needed, and yet I needed to punish him? That's right. As self-righteous as it sounds, I couldn't let him get away with what he did. The money the greedy bastard owed me, a pittance to him, was everything to me. It would have fed my sister and I, secured our lease for another month, perhaps even granted us brief respite from the hell we're currently living. It was a shining beacon in our otherwise miserable lives, a way to ensure our survival during such a trying, stressful time. But because of that narcissist's whim, all hope I had of repairing my broken life vanished. He would deny me shelter, food, comfort, and for what? New seats for his car? A fancy watch? A new TV? And so, staring at this injustice in the face, hearing firsthand how little my life meant to him, I snapped. Of course, as fitting as it may seem to reciprocate his indifference to my life by taking his, doing so was never my intention. So you can see our boy's a little crazy. True, I wanted to kill him. I wanted to make him suffer for belittling my life, for denying me even a moment of peace. But I realized then, as I can clearly see now, that lashing out wouldn't solve anything. So why did I do it? Why would I resort to this? Why would I deliberately choose this no-win situation? If I were to commit a criminal act, why resort to violence rather than theft? If this were truly about my wages, why seek revenge rather than alternative means of compensation? Unfortunately, there's only one answer I can give in which I am confident. You're losing your mind. It isn't the first explanation that came to mind, but it does make sense. A few hours ago, I would have laughed at the cliché of a criminal blaming the voices in their head, even more so at the notion that a person would act on the silent words of an unseen entity. However, as evidenced by the corpse at my feet, those words aren't so easy to ignore. As I attempted to survive in this two-class society, willfully believing that I was somehow immune to the corruption and classism plaguing this town, there was always a voice whispering to me, telling me to believe that good fortune around me. A voice filled with skepticism and doubt, preempting the inevitable, telling me to take action before it was too late. But you didn't listen. That was my first mistake. I ignored the benevolent advice offered to me, the predictions now shown to be accurate, the good faith I received from someone asking for nothing in return. When it told me to stay in school and live with a guardian, when it told me to seek work elsewhere, when it told me to look for a house somewhere safer, I didn't listen. Every step of the way I fought against the sound logical advice it offered. If anything, I made a point of doing opposite of what the voice told me to do. Or at least, until you heard what you wanted to hear. And that was my second mistake. It wasn't that I refused to heed the voice's advice, I simply wasn't interested in taking the safe, responsible route. So by the time that violence had become the advised course of action, my path had already been determined. Sickness. Chapter 1, A New Life. Okay, I think I'll take us through the first chapter, guys, and then I will cut us out of here. Monday evening, September 5th. Less than half an hour ago in this very room, I committed a serious crime. A very violent crime, the kind of crime for which people go to prison without any hope of ever leaving. I lost control of myself, attacked my boss, and without a doubt ended my short time working in this place. No kidding. I acted on impulse as I stared in the face of an injustice that threatened to take away my home, allowing myself to do the only thing I could do to avoid feeling powerless. But as the adrenaline wore off and the tension cooled, I soon realized my mistake. I saw clearly the fresh corpse at my feet, the stained carpet beneath it, and the bloody hands responsible for everything before me. And so I stared at my own handiwork, accepted the gravity of the situation before me, and took immediate steps towards regaining control once more. Marcus, you know, when you called me here, I figured you needed my help with something not strictly legal, but this? Suoh, my man, you have outdone yourself. You really do have a bright future ahead of you. Unfortunately, given my dire situation, my options were quite limited. Staring an intimate prison sentence in the face, I called upon Marcus, a co-worker of mine. Contrary to his crappy dye job and lean figure, Marcus is a man of many trades, several of which aren't entirely legal. Since the moment I began working here, Marcus has been open about his criminal dealings, more than once hinting that he could help me or vice versa. And now that things have come to this, it's time for him to make good on that promise. Oh, hi. Less talking, more lifting. I'm here to help you two out, not take care of everything myself. The second Marcus saw our boss in his current state, he understood the situation. Without asking a single question, he promised to help me out of my predicament, thereafter calling a man whom I had never met before. And surely enough, upon seeing our boss's corpse, the stranger smiled to himself and grabbed Mr. Modou's legs, dragging his body into the doorway before requesting assistance. Marcus, don't be like that. Surely a big, strong man like you can lift that weedy piece of shit by yourself. And get this poor sap's blood all over me in the process. Either give me a hand or do this yourself. Marcus and his acquaintance carried my boss's corpse into the stranger's van, which was parked just outside of Modou's office. So he now is a criminal and has criminal friends. Thanks to the proximity of my boss's office, nobody heard our scuffle over the machinery used within the warehouse, and Marcus's acquaintance was able to block visibility and access to the office with his vehicle. Even so, knowing how fortunate our circumstances were, I couldn't help but feel anxious. Whereas those two successfully covered up Marcus Modou's death or not, there's no way this can end well. All it would take is one witness or slip of the tongue and I could end up in prison. And even if I do get away with this, what then? Will I be indebted to Marcus forever? Will he ask for something extreme in return for his silence? No matter what scenario I envision, it doesn't bode well for me. Phew, that bastard's heavier than he looks. Tell me about it. I thought my corpse handling days were long over. His corpse handling days? This guy sounds like the right person for the job, but just who is he? Anyways, I'll handle the disposer. You two clean up here, alright? You're the boss, Andre. Just leave the rest to us. After all, that'll give us time to talk about repayment. And there it is. It's not unreasonable for Marcus to expect something in return. I called upon him knowing full well that I'd need to repay the favor. Even so, just thinking about how he'd expect me to repay something like this. Sue, what did you have in mind exactly? Oh, nothing big. At least not for someone like you. But really, before we get into that, I gotta tell you. I picked you as a fighter from the moment we met, but to actually kill somebody? I seriously underestimated you. Marcus makes it sound like I planned on killing Modou from the start. But I'm no killer. Even if I've been in my fair share of fights, I've never tried to kill someone before. With that in mind, I have the perfect job for you. I'm sure he does. But given the events leading up to this moment, I have to ask. Is it a legal job? Sure, why not? As long as you don't get caught, of course. Figures. Oh, cheer up, I'm just messing with you. I've got the perfect job in mind for you. You'll be able to rake in the money, feed off the aggression of yours, and pay off the debt almost immediately. Interested? Hang on, you're offering to pay me while I repay you? Of course. Considering the reason why we're here, I thought it would be better not to get between you and your money. Whatever the case, what kind of job are we talking about? I brought you here to get me out of trouble. There won't be any point of you just drag me in deeper. Ha! You really don't have any faith in me, do you? Well, so be it. Just keep in mind that you're worth more to me alive than in prison. That's a fair point. Not that you have a choice, anyway. If you want all this kept a secret, then you're going to have to do exactly as I say. And there it is. Richmond, a town riddled with crime and corruption. Richmond is a vast town, a collection of smaller districts, each varying significantly in terms of wealth, ethnicity, and population density. large enough to entrap millions of everyday citizens, yet dense enough to suffocate any who dare reside within. It's a complicated town, misunderstood even by those living within its walls. But beyond the size and scope of this town, there is one aspect which stands out above all others. Its concentration of wealth. This is a town wherein the wealthy flock together, creating their own small utopia. They build up the selective parts of the city, sculpt their law to their liking, and generally get away with whatever their bank account balance will allow. The end result has been the creation of a state-sized town comprised of countless districts, varying from wealthy suburbs filled with hospitals and schools to those lacking even phone lines. Put simply, this is a two-class society, heavily favoring the rich. As someone living in a wealthy suburb while working among the poor, I'm fairly familiar with both sides of the city. Thanks to those who cling to every cent, labor can be commissioned for next to nothing, making Richmond a surprisingly cheap place to live. Public transport is constant, resources plentiful, infrastructure is abundant, and the town keeps growing. For those with the money to support themselves, this isn't a bad place to live. On the other hand, with so much competition for work, most residents have no choice but to accept whatever work they can and to slave away for as little as necessary. Slave wages are standard practice. Workplace safety laws don't apply, and it's every man for himself. For anyone with a white-collar job, this town is hell. And with mere weeks left on our lease, it won't be long before my sister and I experience that hell for ourselves. Of course, looking back over our lives until this point, I can't really complain. Before our parents passed away, Sarah and I lived sheltered, easy lives, never worrying for a second about homework or housework or finances. We lived good lives in a safe neighborhood. We attended an adequate school, ate healthfully, and were never far away from medical help. So now, even with all that being stripped away, we're still better off than most others in our situation. Or at least we would be, if I hadn't just single-handedly destroyed our new lives. No matter what excuse I give, whatever it brings my says penny pinching, the foreign anger I felt surging through my body, or merely my desperate need for cash, it doesn't change the fact that I killed a man. Even so, I don't feel guilty. I barely regret the loss of life. If anything, it was the most fun I've had in months, a single moment of pure bliss, taking me away from the harsh reality of my new life. Rather, what's eating away at me now is the intimate aftermath. Thanks to my selfish act of revenge and self-indulgence, I now have to explain to my only family why, after a mere 2 weeks in this house, we'll be forced to move again. Without a stable source of income, we won't be able to live here much longer, and I refuse to allow my sister to be subjected to discrimination and crime that makes this city so unlivable for the poor. But with my only chance of recovery resting in the hands of a friend who essentially blackmailed me into meeting with him tonight, I have no illusions over how this will go. So if my choices are to give Sarah fair warning before her leave expires, or to place my faith in a criminal whom I've known for a mere 2 weeks, then... well, can I even call that a choice? As soon as I entered my temporary home, I noticed a pleasant scent coming from the kitchen. Oh, pleasing-looking house. Following my nose, I traced the source of the scent back to the chef of the household, who immediately ran over to my side. Sarah.
Oh, welcome back. I thought it was about time for you to get home. I've been waiting all afternoon.
The young girl waiting for me was Sarah, my twin sister, the only family I have left. Unlike me, Sarah is still in school, so she's been getting home a few hours earlier than I have lately, giving her ample time to take care of the household chores. Kind, gentle, dependable, smart, Sarah's the image of an ideal little sister, one without whom I'd never be able to make it this far. Sue, I'm not that late, am I?
No, not at all. In fact, you're just in time.
In time? In time for what? Given my first observation of time upon entering the house, I already had a good idea of what awaited me. However, even with Sarah standing between me and while wearing an apron, something didn't seem right. In a house with few appliances and shelves stacked with cheap instant food, my sister, who had never cooked for me before, had somehow whipped up a proper meal in anticipation of my return. I could ignore the fact that this house smells like real food for once, but where on earth did the ingredients and utensils come from? Since Sarah and I began living on our own, we've been eating instant food every day, unable to afford anything better. With the petty cash we had left, there's no way Sarah could have bought any of this. Sarah, in the saucepan we have white sauce with chunks of sun-dried tomatoes, and in the pot we have fettuccine pasta. I hope you're hungry. Hungry is an understatement, but if there's one thing more powerful than my stomach, it's my curiosity. Sarah, where did you get the money for all this? And since when have you known how to cook? I go out of my way to cook you dinner and this is how you react? Fine, then I guess I'll just have to eat it all myself. I knew I should have stopped after the first question. Oh well, I forget it. Sarah probably just borrowed some things from school or from one of her friends. Sarah. Anyway, where have you been? Usually you'd been home an hour ago. Shit, that's right. Given the situation, I hadn't even thought about what time it was. Is it worth trying to come up with an excuse now? Even if it isn't rehearsal, it's better than nothing. Sorry about that, I got caught up talking with a colleague of mine. You've been making friends? Friends with that manipulative prick? Not bloody likely. Just a random colleague. We aren't close. Is that right? They're just a random colleague, yet you got caught up talking to them. Crap. Well, it was all work-related stuff. I needed to ask for advice. It was a girl, wasn't it? Eh? I was waiting at home patiently, making dinner for you, and you've been flirting with your co-workers? Of course not! You know I wouldn't do something like that. I wonder. Okay, your story checks out. Huh? What is she... Whatever. Anyway, now that we've got that sorted out, I have something for you. Sarah removed her apron, simultaneously taking envelope from her pocket. Sorry, I know I shouldn't have opened it. Sarah handed me the envelope, which she had attempted to reseal after opening. I peered inside the envelope, and within it I found... money? Wait a minute, there has to be at least $2,000 in here. I spent a little on utensils and some fresh meat and vegetables. You can't eat instant noodles every day, you know. Sarah explained to me why the envelope was no longer full, but as I vacantly stared at the money in my hands, she needn't have bothered. Even as the pay I was promised, I shouldn't have made less than $1,000 in total. I should have made less than $1,000 in total, excuse me. For there to be over double that left after Sarah's expenses. This must be Marcus's doing. He knows I need money and that I won't be able to pay him back unless I accept his job offer. Furthermore, Marcus sent the money straight to my sister, eliminating the possibility of me refusing or returning the money. But how did he get the money to my sister so early? Did he know ahead of time that Modu would refuse to pay me? This is all just... What are you waiting for? Come on, get it while it's hot. Interrupting my agitated thoughts, Sarah took me by the hand and led me into the living room. Sitting on the table in front of the couch were placemats paired with shiny cutlery, more goods we didn't know mere hours ago. Further to that, 2 steaming plates entered my vision moments later as Sarah made another quick stop into the kitchen, bringing with her a heavenly scent. Come on, put down the money and eat! As intrigued as I was by the scene before me, the thought of putting down the cash-filled envelope had yet to cross my mind. After all, before I could relax and eat dinner, there was still something I needed to clear up. I will, but before that, how and when did you get this envelope? Didn't your boss tell you the envelope was mailed here sometime today? Well, I get that envelopes are made to be mailed, but envelope with this much money in it, that's just careless. And extremely suspicious. I hadn't really thought about that. I just found it slipped under the door before I got home. Isn't much to go on, but does confirm my earlier suspicion. Sir gets home before I do. If this money came from Marcus, he really must have known what would happen ahead of time. Damn, it feels like I'm being played by that bastard. Enough about that. Sit down and eat already. You better not be stalling because you're afraid to eat my cooking. What? Of course not. Though it is true that she's never cooked for me before. Well, it certainly smells nice enough. Wow, this is actually pretty good. Might be because I've been eating instant food for weeks on end, but this tastes like something to actually pay for. Stare. Though might taste better if certain someone were analyzing every bite I take. Maybe some feedback will get Sarah off my back. It smells better than it tastes. Tease her. It's good. Well, it is what she is waiting to hear. I hope it's what she's waiting to hear. This tastes great. You did really well. Of course I did. Just who do you think you're talking to? What a brat. On the other hand, I should know better than to stroke her ego by now. Whatever the case, it's really nice to be eating real food again. What are you talking about? Uh-oh. It's only been a couple of weeks, you know. For you, maybe. I've been gone for a month of hospital food, straight to nothing but instant noodles. Oh, right. Guess it's been a while for you. As much as I try to sympathize with Sarah, my life hasn't been so grand lately either. After suffering a severe head injury and losing months' worth of memories as a result, I received grim news that her parents had been killed in a car crash. Uh-oh. Worse, since the circumstances surrounding the crash were deemed suspicious, their assets were frozen, leaving Sarah and I without a dime. Finally, without any close relatives who we could rely on, I had little choice but to quit school and find a job, assuming responsibility for Sarah's well-being. So now, after suffering so much hardship in such a short amount of time, being able to indulge in a peaceful home life like this is a dream come true. Sarah, either way, you're right, it is nice. It feels like we've finally gotten some piece of our old life back. I couldn't agree with you more. And with that in mind, dear sister, what will be the next step of the Tesla family restoration project? The what? If we're going to restore our lives to what they were, we need to plan out what we're going to do. What next? A car? A bigger TV? A live-in maid? Like I'd let you get a live-in maid, you pervert. But you do have a point. We need some kind of plan to manage from now on. What do we need next? There are a lot of things still missing from the house. The facilities work and we have some minor luxuries like a television and refrigerator, but it's still far away from feeling like a home. It's not something we need to figure out right now, but just give it some thought. Right. I shouldn't get too excited about spending money we don't even have yet. Besides, we should be going to bed anyway, so... Right. We should get a second bed. Huh? I mean, even if there's only one bedroom in this house, there's still room for another bed. That way we wouldn't need to share anymore. I'm sure many people would get the wrong idea if I said I sleep with my sister, but there's really nothing dubious at play here. The house only has a single bedroom. Until now, we couldn't afford another bed. Furthermore, when I suggested I take the couch, Sarah insisted I needed to sleep properly for work, and I could tell she didn't want to be left alone in an unfamiliar house. Given the situation, I'd say our decision was correct. Sarah, that's a waste of money. It is? But don't you want a bed of your own again? I mean, surely you are sick of... Focus on things we need, not things we want. Besides, it's getting late. We should think about it tomorrow. Okay, so she's still scared of being on her own. Huh, I guess my idea wasn't as bright as I thought. Maybe Sarah isn't ready to sleep alone yet after all. Regardless, Sarah was right about one thing. We shouldn't get too excited about spending money we don't even have yet. I should have told Sarah where the money came from, and that there might not be any future payments like it, but I let the atmosphere go to my head, afraid to break the mood. For the first time since our parents died, Sarah was happy, and if tonight pans out, I'd be satisfied with merely prolonging her happiness, just temporarily. And after taking a shower and storing my earnings, I retreated to my bedroom for a few hours' sleep. Sarah fell asleep by my side, tightly clinging to my torso, greedily stilling my body heat until I too lost consciousness. Unfortunately, as nice as a peaceful, relaxing night in a warm bed sounds, tonight that pleasure was to be short-lived. Whatever Marcus had planned, midnight is the deadline he gave me, and I don't plan on being late. Midnight meetings and corpse handling aside, the fact of the matter is that Marcus has already compensated me for the work not yet done, not to mention the promise of more to come. Whatever reservations I have about this, I can't afford not to go. At the very least, I need to hear him out and see what he has in mind. And if the job he has lined up for me is as violent and well paid as my night so far would suggest, then there are worse ways to make a living. Eyeing the clock on the wall facing our bed, I snuck away from my sister's side, careful not to wake her. I slowly removed my arms from around me, replacing my body with the pillow I'd been using until moments prior, then tiptoed out of our bedroom and through the living room, not making sound the entire trip. It's a shame to have to leave her side like this, but tonight, there's somewhere else I need to be. Following the unfamiliar route detailed to me earlier in the day, I made my way to a part of the town I never thought I'd need to visit. Among the many districts of Richmond, this is one of the poorest, and definitely not a good place to be at this time of night. There's no police presence to speak of, most of the stores are closed or abandoned, and there's absolutely zero maintenance being done. As soon as Marcus told me where we'd be meeting, I knew the job he'd had lined up for me couldn't be legal. Just what am I getting myself into here? Marcus, geez, took you long enough. I was beginning to think you chickened out. The moment Marcus and I met face to face, he opened with his usual level of compassion. So, chickened out of what? I don't even know why I'm here. Marcus, you're here because it's one of the few places in town where someone like you can actually make money. You know that isn't what I meant. I'm in a shoddy neighborhood in the middle of the night, prepared to make money from legally questionable work, and you're still only telling me the bare minimum. You can't keep me in the dark forever, Marcus. I guess you're right. But really, relax already. It's honest work, I assure you. In this part of town this late at night, I doubt it. Alright, so what now? Just follow me. You'll understand soon enough. Marcus turned around and walked to the side entrance of the building adjoining the car park. He removed a keyring from his pocket and unlocked a steel frame door, turning back for a moment to smirk as though daring me to follow him. And so I did. Following right behind Marcus, I entered the dreary building, immediately confronted by a dusty staircase within. The path before us was dark, dirty, every bit as eerie as one would think a midnight stroll in an unsavory neighborhood might be. Despite that, the staircase appeared to be maintained, or at least not dilapidated. Moreover, albeit faint, I could definitely see light coming from below. What awaited us at the bottom of the staircase was an arena. In the center was a boxing ring, and beyond that were grandstands akin to those I'd usually see in football stadiums. Despite the massive size of the venue before us, there were only few other people present, all smiling around us near the top of the grandstands. The lights remained dim, and for all intents and purposes, Marcus and I were essentially alone. Marcus, so what do you think? Pretty impressive, huh? That's one word for it. What the hell is an arena like this doing down here? I believe the word you're looking for is stadium or ring. Anyways, where else would it be? Events like this can't take place out in the open, you know. Not even in Richmond. Events like these? It's just a boxing ring, right? In a way. Interested in boxing? I'm not a fan of watching the sport, but come to think about it. Just wait a little longer. Another 5 minutes and this place will be open to the public. Then you can tell if you're interested in bashing skulls for a living. While Marcus and I hung around the bottom of the dark stairwell, an entrance apparently reserved for staff spectators began to storm in from between the grandstands. Hundreds, if not thousands, of spectators flooded the grandstands, soon filling the arena which had been empty only minutes ago. The grandstands were filled, the ring gained fighters, and best of all, the betting began. Holy crap, look at all that money! Just how much are those people betting? Despite being so far away from the action, I could clearly see large stacks of money changing hands. Spectators practically threw money at the staff taking bets, growing all the more excited as fighters for the first match began warming up. Figures you jumped straight to that. Yes, that is that side of the business, and yes, a lucky man can make himself a small fortune down there. But competing is where the real money is, and there aren't any rules against betting on yourself either. So let me ask you again, are you interested? Interested in that kind of money? Absolutely. But as far as competing goes... So what should we do? Let's say actually. If I learned how to fight professionally, I could never then proceed to bet on myself. I could make a lot of money. It would also give me an outlet somewhere to vent my frustration rather than on unsuspecting victims like Modu. But that's the best case scenario. Realistically, I might not even land a hit on my opponent, let alone prove proficient enough to profit from a career in boxing. I could just end up broken and broke, worse off than ever. Maybe, but I'd rather find a more stable source of income. Your loss. But if that's how you feel, then I suggest we set your sights on the man above the grandstand to your left. Despite our poor vantage point, I did as Marcus suggested and gazed towards the grandstand to the left of the boxing ring. Above the grandstand was a glass panel and viewing booth with a single shadow being cast from within. Behind the bulletproof glass is the owner of this fine establishment, Mr. Karasu. Impress him and you can make a comfortable living without ever setting foot inside the ring. Now that is worth noting. A place like this must rake it in. I'd be foolish not to try and get in on something like this. Make a living? How? What kind of business does he run? Forget I said anything. Let's just make a silly bet between friends, okay? What do you think will win this next match, Macho Man or the little Jap? With both fighters for the next match already center stage, I could clearly tell who Marcus was referring to. Before us were two men in their 30s, one in blue trunks and one in red. In the blue was a Caucasian male. From my position, he appeared to be at least 6 foot tall, with shoulder width to match his impressive stature. His opponent seemed to be a head shorter, a Japanese man with a slim barrel, probably a martial artist of some variety. That's racist. I'm sure they're both professionals given their presence, but I'm asked to choose a victor, I'd say... Let's go for Japanese. Say Japanese, don't say Jap, that's racist, dude. I'd rather not make a bet with Marcus, but I guess it can't hurt if there aren't any stakes. Alright then, I guess the Macho Man is mine. For bets being placed, and neither one of us said a word as we waited for the match to begin. Even if we waited to talk, it took enough concentration to simply observe from such a distance, let alone speak. Not for the significant difference in stature, I'd doubt have even been able to tell the fighters apart. The instant the bell rang, the outcome had already been decided. In a split second, the massive Caucasian swept his opponent's legs, sending him to the floor. He then threw his legs around the Japanese man's arms, pushing him against his elbow like a lever as he threatened to snap. Ah, ah! Japanese cried out in pain as his arm bent backwards at the elbow. His screams were overpowered by the crowd, who shouted for blood, spurred on by the giant pitted against. Gah! No more! I give! The man in blue paid no heed to his opponent's pleas for mercy. Even as the Japanese man cried out in pain, "That's really racist, dude." Forfeiting without hesitation, the giant continued unabated, glaring at his opponent without even a hint of sympathy. Despite how overwhelmingly one-sided the fight proved to be, the crowd continued to cheer, seemingly more interested in seeing blood than a match. And so, in response to their lust for violence, the Caucasian man happily carried out his job. That is also racist. No racist game. The sound of the Japanese man's arm being snapped in two was silenced by the crowd, most of whom went quiet as the echo reached their ears. Medical staff rushed into the ring, carrying the falling fighter out post-haste, and gamblers lined up to correct their payouts, leaving the remainder of those present in shock and awe. Not all Asians practice martial arts, you know. Yeah, that's why I said it was racist. You better learn how to analyze your opponents a little better if you want to become a professional fighter. Marcus tried to speak to me, but whatever he had to say, I wasn't interested. Even after the match had ended, my mind was in the ring, trying to replay the scene that had transpired mere moments ago. I could feel the blood drain from my face even before the decisive moment, at which point there wasn't a single hair on my body that was not standing on end. Marcus dragged me here with promises of money, making it sound like my worries were over. A legal job, one in which I could act violently and make money from doing so. Boxing fit that description, and for a moment there I could even see myself wearing boxing gloves and trunks, duking it out with some other money-hungry athlete. But what I just saw, whatever that was, that's not happening. Marcus can't possibly expect me to get in a ring like that, getting my legs broken for his sadistic boss's amusement. I may be desperate, but no sum of money is worth that. After the last of the spectators and staff members had left the stadium, only two figures lingered in the underground lair. Him behind the thick glass, watching over the match from afar. The doer began to wind down as the night's festivities came to a close. What a night. I can't even remember the last time I watched a fight live. Were they always this gruesome? Japanese man. The pairings were usually more balanced. There's no profit in matches with obvious outcomes, after all. Usually? As in, not tonight? Do you have to ask? You specifically requested that we skew the pairings so that different weight classes would fight one another. I did? That doesn't sound like me. Well, you didn't quite put it like that. You wanted to find someone lean, fast, and strong, right? Someone who could punch above their weight class? Ah, right. But isn't this selection method a little counterproductive? Why are you asking me? It was your idea. Oh, I see. Well, scratch that. There has to be a less costly method, right? Yes, sir. I'll start spreading word that we're recruiting, and I'll keep your criteria in mind. No, you can't pin this one on me. It's your criteria, Sai. I wouldn't have a clue what to look for. Very well, I'll pass along my criteria, and I'll expand the recruitment drive to include younger fighters. Even then, it might take a while. Finding someone capable is only half the battle. The real challenge is fighting someone who's not only emotionally and mentally stable, but also desperate for money.
and ruthless enough to kill for it.
Sickness. Chapter 2, the sadist. Okay, so I'm going to save and I'm going to leave it off there. And we'll see what they have in store for us the next day. So if you like that, I can play that for us. I'm going to save it here. And we're going to save game. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. And this is going to be Nightcat signing off. And I am going to give you the link over so you can download and play this for yourself. And I hope you enjoyed the game as much as I enjoyed playing it for you. And this is Nightcat signing out, and I will see you all later. Bye-bye.